let's get something out of the way. I am months late to this video. So many months. I had this script written within days following the initial announcement of the Switch 2. I am only filming it on the 31st of March. However, the name that I came up with when I was writing the script makes a lot more sense given when this video is going to make it out. So, months of Switch 2 rumours, proper ones, had been floating around. It hits January, I want to say, and that reveal finally came. My take? Scoot. It was exactly what I'd hoped for, and in fairness, exactly what I knew was coming, because, well, I'd seen all the leaks. But the thing is, not everything is known at the moment, or really anything of any serious substance. The only thing we got to see was Mario Kart 8's sequel, whether it's called Mario Kart 9 or Mario Kart 10 or some kind of title, which would probably make more sense after they complicate things. So they didn't really give us anything besides that though. So I figured, you know what? Let's fill the gap with my top 10 wishes for games for the Switch 2. Keeping remasters to a minimum, but there'll be a couple in there still. But anything larger than a regular remaster, it's fair game to this. And you'll see why I specified that in a bit. However, I want this to be a quicker one than usual. So let's shut up and get started with Kid Icarus 4. So here's the thing. Over the years, there's been certain characters in gaming that have been neglected. Some might find brief revivals, but they get sent back to the scrap heap anyway. And some even deserve that. Thinking of you, Bubsy. What could possibly go wrong? Okay, anyway. Kid Icarus is one of those series with infinite potential because it stems from Greek mythology. And I'm not gonna lie. Limitless. Absolutely limitless. As someone that grew up with Percy Jackson, ever since I got taught in class about Greek myths. Yeah, you could pick so much stuff out of that. And it would be brilliant. Now, Uprising was a long time ago now. A very long time ago. 13 years. According to what I wrote earlier. I didn't really play it. I'm not going to lie, I don't do touch controls, really. But, with enough work to it, that game deserves a second life. But, I'm actually, as I said, talking about Kid Icarus 4. I don't know what it would do, gameplay-wise. Like, or really anything, because again, I'm less of a Kid Icarus fan, I'm more a fan of the potential of Kid Icarus. I'd probably say gameplay would be very similar to Uprising, but with controls that don't actually make me want to commit various atrocities that would get me thrown in the big house. But this had to be number 10 because I don't know that much about Kid Icarus, and that is why I have not said as much as I probably ought to. Now, number 9 is a bit of a weird one because I no longer really stand by what I wrote. At least not the specifics, so we're going to just blitz through this. I want a Pokemon MMO. Yeah, I do. I don't love MMOs, and I think that as a business model they absolutely fucking suck. I used to play the Old Republic and Final Fantasy XIV for a bit, but they all just want your money, and I can't be arsed. But if there's one franchise that I've always been interested in, what could come from taking it all massively multiplayer, Pokemon. That is genuinely an incredibly limitless idea. I originally came up with this really unrealistic idea that would require a lot of ridiculousness and workaround shit to work. I don't know the exact details of how a realistic version of this is going to happen. But it would be interesting to see a massively multiplayer take. Now, we know that Nintendo are working on MMOs now, because they did that playtest a few months ago for NSO. I wasn't on it, but that was apparently interesting. So yeah, my vision would probably focus on the player getting to be the kind of Pokemon trainer they want it to be, as I feel like the mainline games are very, very restricted. You have to conquer the league, when in the anime you've got all sorts of people doing different things. You've got contest people, you've got professors, you've got teachers, I guess. You get the point though. So yeah, Pokemon MMO. That would be very, very fucking interesting, wouldn't it? Anyways, moving on, because I'm not reading that spiel, because that makes me look like a complete idiot who knows nothing about sustainability in games. Anyways, the next one, number 8, is not really a shock. A new 3D Donkey Kong. Because how on earth have we not had a new 3D Donkey Kong game since the 90s? We got one, and then suddenly it was like Nintendo were completely disheartened. Don't get me wrong, DK64 isn't perfect. It's got some serious scale issues, a bit like Banjo-Tooie does. Much as I love both Banjo-Kazooie and Banjo-Tooie, and even DK64. But if they refine the formula, they could have given us a peak game. Genuinely an incredible game. So, character-wise, I'd probably say relying on Donkey Kong, Diddy Kong, Funky Kong, and Dixie Kong could give us enough focus. So, the country players. The modern country players. Yeah, sure. Maybe rather than 64's convoluted switching mechanic, we give them their own storylines and levels. It's a must to bring back King K. Rool, although I say K. Rool because of the cartoon Banana Slammer. Yeah, I know. Give us a focus on music, which means hiring Greg Kirkhope again. And absolutely not an open world game. We don't need any more. Streamline it. Too many. We could even be backpedaling on some open world games, if you think about it. But that is a controversial statement these days. But seriously, did Rare being bought out by Microsoft really cripple the DK franchise that bad? The quote-unquote new design for DK is a bit of a blend of 80s and 90s DK. And based on the Mario Kart clip from the reveal, that's what we're sticking to. I'm all for it. Bring him back to I'm sorry that went nowhere. Bring him back to 3D. Kirby got it, and Kirby had to wait about 30 years longer than pretty much everybody else for a 3D game. So, number 7. Wario. Or Mario and Wario. Because remember when Wario got more games than just a WarioWare series? Now, I grew up on one of the Wario Land games for the Game Boy and Wario World for the GameCube. And I played a little bit of Master of Disguise for the DS. He's a pretty compelling character. He's apparently also a little bit redesigned for the new Mario Kart. Not as noticeably as others might be, but a little bit. So, why didn't he get his own beat-em-up platformer hybrid? Bring back the greedy tosser who into our hearts. I'm sorry, it's like an illness. This is what I get for pseudo-scripting. And for the record, just so we're very clear on this, Waluigi needs to be there too. I don't care why Nintendo don't use him. Get over it. Maybe Mario could be the antagonist of it. Lean back into their old rivalry. Daisy coming back as well could make it even specialer. More special. Or, alternatively, the next 3D Mario could have both Mario and Wario working together. Both playable. They could do it if they just used their characters for once. Now, number 6, and we are already breaking the no remasters thing. Although this is like one of very few. I promise it's mostly new games. I just struggle to think of things. But you knew this was coming because Wind Waker and Twilight Princess. Very simply, I just want them. On the Switch, too. I don't know what else I can say about that. It's not particularly shocking. I want everyone to be able to play the joint second best Zeldas. And yeah, Wind Waker and Twilight Princess were last seen on the Wii U. I don't really care about people who say that it's too soon. It's been 10 years. Really doesn't matter. We need them now. But because they're on Wii U, we don't have to do a lot to make them look acceptable. Wind Waker in particular doesn't really need anything done to it. Now, there's been some talk that these two, if they come out now, probably won't be the HD versions. As word is they are looking at finally giving us GameCube games in general. Although, they've been kind of re-releasing their GameCube games slowly anyway. I don't know why I'm still talking about this. I had like 2 lines for this originally. Give us those games. I absolutely love them. Hurry up. Speaking of games I love. Super Hot. So I want a Super Hot collection and more. It's the first third-party pick that I've listed here, because it's actually never been on Nintendo. Also, it's amazing. It's badass. I love them. All 3 of them. One of them's a no-go on Switch at all. VR. Labo's kind of very dead, and rightly so. And Super Hot VR isn't actually all that expansive. It's the first game with no movement where you feel like listening to the same songs that Quicksilver ran to in X-Men. I've done that a couple of times. It was quite fun. My thoughts on this game aren't overly interesting. I just want a couple of new skills added to Mind Control Delete and a few new environments. And it's more important that it makes it to Switch. Other than that, they can pretty much do as they like. Love the Super Hot. Anyway, number 4. Speaking of third party, the Final Fantasy VII Remake Trilogy and Kingdom Hearts properly this time. I'm now officially cheating. The FF7 Remake Trilogy is allegedly coming, or at the very least, the 2 that are out already. There have been rumours. I don't know how much I believe. But apparently it was a timed exclusive and that's over now. So I don't know how doable this is. It largely depends on how demanding both Rebirth and whatever the third game was being called are. But while I'm at it, let me just real briefly whinge that Rebirth does get stupid. Very stupid. So there's that. Anyway, I promise that the next 3 are going to be things that I actually have to think about. Number 3. Star Fox Horizons and a Show. Star Fox. It's a series near and dear to my heart. Okay, no. It's a game near and dear. That being Lylat Wars. I spent a lot of last summer playing it. Great time, by the way. I also played Zero. And if you couldn't tell from that tone, that was a decision that I'm quite fascinated I actually made. Not great. Fun-ish. Doesn't live up to Lylat Wars though. Okay, so what I'm about to say is going to sound a bit contradictory. But if you listen, it's going to make sense. It's time to leave Lylat Wars / Star Fox 64 behind us. But it's time to let the gameplay say out in that game point to the future instead of stuffing the series full of gimmicks that don't belong there. Crystal's introduction into the series did somewhat save her from the fate that should have had waiting for it if Dinosaur Planet had come out instead. However, that doesn't change the fact that Star Fox Adventures was a mistake. Of course, there were rumours floating around of an Adventures sequel, which, yeah, not a good decision. Follow on from its story, specifically on from its story, Command didn't happen, ignore it, it was a terrible idea. Utter mistake. Now, this new game needs to focus on the ship gameplay, on rails with brief or range sequences, the way that a Star Fox game is built to be. Or it could be very much like Event Horizon, which, good fan game. Would be nice if that'd get an update soon. However, ground combat should still exist, but do it better than Namco did. Assault was clearly made for an arcade machine that never happened. But this was a game that came out in the same generation as Metroid Prime. Also, there's the mouse stuff now. That could help. That could make it really interesting. So, yeah. Make the dogfights feel good. They did it once. It can be done again. And while we're on the topic of Star Fox, it's been known for a long time that the series has a lot of inspiration from the old TV show Thunderbirds. So let's take it and use it. Episodic show about Star Fox. Just weekly missions. Could even use puppets. I know I don't like puppets. That'd be really fun. Hey, remember the Zero reveal? That was actually really good. Now, number 2. I'm not giving up. F-Zero Reborn. It's been 21 years since Climax. Yes, F-Zero 99 came out recently-ish. But, for one reason or another, that is the only thing the series has gotten in 20 odd years. Outside of Captain Falcon being Smash. And my argument against 99 is the fact that it's another 2D Metroid when the series was perfected in 3D with GX way back in the early 2000s. Now, Nintendo often say that the sales of F-Zero weren't up to scratch. But if a game on these systems fails, it's usually the fault of Nintendo's own marketing, not the game itself. And I'm not gonna lie, nobody's saying you need to pour the budget of a Mario Kart game into this. GX is the greatest racing game ever made by quite a large margin. Stick to what the game did, but with online play, new courses, expanded customization, and a new story mode. Bring back Death Race. Do some other additional modes. Perfect game there. Sitting right there, open goal. Now, stuff got made for the 64DD expansion kit for F-Zero X that I'd love to see done again, but not sucking. Especially the track editor with all that mouse functionality that these new Joy-Cons seem to have. Bring F-Zero back to us. It's been long enough that doing the same, but again and a bit better, wouldn't just be acceptable, it would be heralded as heroic. Guipai got to continue. So should its better cousin. Now, honourable mentions. I could say anything here. Kirby, Pikmin, more Nintendo and Sega. I'm interested in the form of a new Smash, less so than other things though. Make sure Banjo and Kazooie and whatever comes in the future of Smash. What do I want to see ported? Rockstar stuff that we don't already have. Yeah. Bully, Red Dead Revolver and 2, GTA 4, GTA 5. It'd be really cool with GTA 6 on the horizon for that to happen. And let's ease off on Splatoon. It didn't need 2 games in the Switch era. Metroid. Obviously. Metroid Prime 4 is literally coming at Mach speed towards us. But I'm going to hold off. We'll talk about that soon. Ish. We need more time for that to work. Has anyone guessed what my number 1 pick's going to be? Anyone? Anyone? The Legend of Zelda. Was anyone ever under any illusions? I could have talked about Metroid a bit more. But as I say, I need room for that. There's lore to get into with that. Zelda's similar. It's been my number 1 for most of my life. It's the only mainstay on the big 3. A rotating list of franchises that are essential to me. Every time I beat a Zelda, the words, "What's next?" ring through me. Most recently, I beat Echoes of Wisdom. And then played about 3/4 of it again. And I asked that. But right now, I'm interested in what's next for 3D Zelda. See, Nintendo have done this overly indulgent open world lark now. It holds a place in my heart, despite my misgivings about the entire formula. It's undeniable that Breath of the Wild made up the most important years of my life in some way or another. Throughout my entire teens, it was in some way part of my life. If it hadn't been for Breath of the Wild, the Switch wouldn't have felt quite as special, seeing as the only other game I owned at launch was 1-2-Switch. Thing is, it's going to be very difficult to top the scale of Breath of the Wild and Tears of the Kingdom without the game just not working on a fundamental level. And I need someone at Nintendo to realise that games cannot keep relying on people being silly with physics engines. There is nothing... We rarely see people online talking about the content of the games. It is all about how silly they can be with the physics engine. Whereas, when people talk about Ocarina of Time still, it's about mechanics they didn't know about. Admittedly, because of possible rearranging of the facts in the games. Sorry, divergence. Now, it's not going to be a popular decision to scale things back. They don't have to. But people constantly saying, we need to leave Hyrule behind. No, 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 no. Don't get me wrong. Ganondorf probably could use a break. Mostly because Nintendo proved that they don't know what they're doing with him anymore. But any kind of long break, like long-term exit from Hyrule, is terrible for the series. You can't have Zelda without Hyrule. It is about Hyrule. And I don't think the answer is to take things back to the sea, either. Because I know that people keep talking about that. Because Wind Waker gets heralded for a lot, when I think a lot of people are just proving a point when they heap praise on it. Wind Waker's great. Don't get me wrong, second best Zelda game, joint with Twilight Princess. But we're not going into that right now. I will talk about Wind Waker fully one day, because I have a lot of thoughts. Most of them positive, of course. The solution, I think, is to keep the same scale as the last two 3D games in terms of map size. But Hyrule is to be busy and thriving with a lot of intricate schedules, like with Majora's Mask's Clock Town. Now, the game that I want to see next in the series could not possibly be ready for years, because it would be a very involved game, an involved story, expansive quest lines, lots and lots of abilities to gain from various dungeons and caves, including expanded elemental abilities, new traversal mechanics to entirely replace that nonsense with climbing, and all around just a lot to do. If we're going to have to wait for years for that game though, what could we possibly do to keep the series going? Because Nintendo don't miss a year with releases. So, a while ago, I left some videos on while I slept. Something I regularly do. I woke up randomly one morning-ish, as one of them had a bloke talking about a remake of a certain game being rumoured. What game? What do you think? Ocarina of Time. But we've done a remake, I hear you cry. No, not like that. I don't even really like Ocarina 3D. I mean, a remake like another one I've mentioned today. Final Fantasy VII. Yeah, this game would be more than just a new way to play an old legend. It'd be a whole new game taking advantage of the new technology to expand on it a bit. However, it would still be a smaller Zelda project than the big next Zelda that I want. It wouldn't be handled by the usual Zelda team, most likely. Grezzo have worked with Ocarina in the past, and they're full of fanboys for the game. Maybe they can do a new, better remake. And I can't believe that I'm having to mention this, it could tie into the reveal that the film, which I fear more than any game, is based heavily on Ocarina's story. And so we're clear, while we're talking about that film, if I find out that Arad has done something detrimental to this franchise, there will be hell to pay. I do not trust that man. He ruined Spider-Man, he'll ruin this. Of course, when I wrote this script initially, that I've been using for prompts, there wasn't a date for this film. And then a couple of days ago, something ridiculous happened. We got a date. The 26th of March, 2027. 2027. Anyway, bringing back Ocarina of Time in a new way could legitimately be a great way to forge a new path for the franchise. There's a lot to learn from an Ocarina remake. If they do change things up with it. However, I worry that when the inevitable remake comes, because I believe that's coming, it'll also believe itself to be a replacement for the 64 Classic, just like the 3DS version, instead of doing something on top of all of that. But yeah, so that is my thoughts on things that can come for the Switch 2 in this Direct. I will be doing a reaction to the Direct, and with any luck, I will remember to upload it this time. And honestly, I'm excited. I really am. Sorry, I'm struggling a bit. My nose is playing up and I'm out of breath. I'm not used to doing this anymore, and I'm aware that I've been gone for 3.5 months. All of this is a lot to take in at the moment. We're ushering in a new system, a new era, and I'm excited. I'm excited as anyone is. So, get ready. Because it's a whole new world out there. Anyways, I'll leave it here, because I'm struggling a bit now. Take care of yourselves, and hopefully I'll see you guys tomorrow. Peace.